What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lamont's Gym and Custom Knives Show, the number 3 podcast. Before I get into the topic, I want to thank everybody who participated in the grand opening of my daughter and my wife's business. If you can remember, I did a brief podcast, I want to say one day last week when I was off, maybe Saturday, Sunday, one of them days. And then I did a video with her as my special guest. The response was awesome. And I'm gonna tell you how incredibly awesome it was. So they had probably 100 pieces of inventory sold out. I think they did about 50 pieces on consignment, sold out. So after the first 2 or 3 days, I'm thinking, hell, they ain't moving nothing, because I'm seeing the same stuff, or I'm just seeing this room full of clothes. Well, they have went to 3 or 4 different places to get new material, new product on consignment. That's how successful they have been in just 2 or 3 days. So that's pretty doggone awesome. And I want to thank you guys. I really think the podcast helped. I don't know about Facebook, because I did put it up on Facebook. I said I wasn't anymore, but I did put it up on Facebook. But the response from Twitter and Rumble was just awesome. And thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for supporting them. Just wanted to get that out. Now, see, before I even get to the topic, see, this is where they are better than me, because they actually had another business called Mystic Designs. You may have heard that from when I first started this. I used them as a sponsor. They had plenty of inventory left over after that venture kind of died down, but it wasn't because it wasn't selling. My daughter, she was super duper young, like 4th, 5th grade. And, her attention span went somewhere else. And my wife, she had to do a little bit more traveling. So it just wasn't meant to be. Now it's meant to be. My daughter, 16, she just got her first job working at a smoothie shop. But yet her free time, she's going to dedicate it to the business, and that's great. I hate she's not going to be in the band anymore. I really hate that, but listen, it is what it is. Yeah, and like I said, thank you guys. Let's get into the show. So there's actually 2 topics I want to talk about. First, let me say that I heard a young man speak yesterday, and he is the CEO of an organization that honors the fallen law enforcement officers. He goes around the country with plaques and with detailed things, about these officers. And I think that's great. He's doing all this out of his pocket. He wants to get grants, and he wants people to contribute. And I'm gonna, if I can remember, because it's gonna be 2 or 3 days before I edit this podcast. If I can remember, I will put it up, his information in the description. That way, if you want to give, or if you know anybody in your family who's law enforcement and they want to give, I think it's very important. And the reason I say that, because in my law enforcement years, I met a lot of guys, went to different conferences, different trainings, and I met a lot of people. A lot of guys and gals in law enforcement. From, agencies that you didn't think exist. And just remember, when it comes to state and federal governments, pretty much every agency has a law enforcement division. um, whether it be DHR, whether it be whatever. Every state and federal agency has a law enforcement division. Do they all wear badges and guns? Hell, I don't know. Because I went to these conferences and I'm trying to look at their insignia. And I'm like, who the hell is that? Now at the conferences, everybody got on badge and gun. You just got to have a badge and a gun, when you go to the conferences. But just in general, on everyday operations, do they wear badges and guns? I don't know. But I met a lot of people. Now, I've only got close to a handful. And unfortunately, in the last 16 years, well, now, even though I'm not in law enforcement, the 16 years I was in law enforcement, probably about 6 or 7 guys I was honestly close to, have unfortunately passed away. It may have been more, but if I don't know, then that means we weren't close, because I have heard through other people that, this guy and that guy passed away or whatever. So when I was at UAB, one of my sergeant, well, he wasn't a sergeant then, but he became a sergeant. He died of COVID. Another individual died of COVID. Can't remember where I served with him, but I do know he died of COVID. I saw it on Facebook. And another one of natural causes. One of my closest friends, well, we served in the Department of Corrections, Big E, he passed away 2-3 years ago. I didn't find out till he was dead and buried. That broke my heart. But only 2 individuals that I wasn't super duper close to, but I was close to. One of them was actually stabbed when we worked for the Department of Corrections. He eventually kind of sort of recovered. He had ailments, but he committed suicide. And his father, which is a famous dude, played with the St. Louis Cardinals, to my knowledge, in baseball. He served not the father, but he served in the military. Had a lot of injuries in the military. Came over to the Department of Corrections. He responded to a situation. He was stabbed in the back. It actually set up infection in many of his organs. It was a long process with him, but he eventually committed suicide. Now, one of his best friends, one of my mutual friends, I learned later on he committed suicide. And that is big when it comes to law enforcement. A lot of people don't understand when it comes to law enforcement, lawyers, and doctors. Suicide is big. It's real big. And that's why guys like this, who are out of his own free time and money dedicating these things to our fallen officers, the numbers I seen yesterday when it comes to officers that have fallen in the line of duty was incredible. Now, I haven't kept up with those numbers since I've been out of the game, but it's nationwide. It's more than 200 a year. I think 200, 250 may be the average. I could be wrong on that. Don't take that to the bank. But I want to say the average is 200 to 250 per year, and that's 200, 250 too many. Unfortunately, when you go to the academy, you graduate, you get on with a department or agency, you have to know that you're putting your life on the line. That's just what we did. That's what we do, and that's why I support the men and women in law enforcement. I don't personally know of any individual who I served with that lost their life in the line of duty. But like I said, the 2 that I worked close to that committed suicide, that's actually a byproduct of the law enforcement game. A lot of people look at the Alabama Department of Corrections or any corrections department as babysitters, as jailers, as guards. And listen, that's the public persona of that job. But in all actuality, I know in Alabama, not sure about any other state, but I know in Alabama has an academy, a 12-week academy. They train extremely hard. Now, I was fortunate. My law enforcement career started before I went to the Department of Corrections. So I basically had everything I did in the academy they did. They may have lowered the standards in the past 10 years because they needed to get so many females in or whatever. So the standards may be lower, but when I went in, their standards in corrections was the same standards as Peace Officers Association. To be a police officer. 12 weeks, tough training, class work. So I do know in the past that the Alabama Department of Corrections was the truth. And you had to be the truth because we had the most dangerous prisons in the country. And that's documented, that's absolute fact. It's been said by the federal government. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The Alabama Department of Corrections is also one of the most corrupt agencies, law enforcement agencies in the country. If you have HBO Max, it's a documentary out about my time in the Alabama Department of Corrections where you have these two individuals that were the ringleaders of this inmate organization that, they stopped the inmates working. They went on strike. They caused a lot of chaos. One of them was in the camp that I was in, St. Clair Correctional Facility. The other one was either in Donaldson or Holman. If you don't know anything about Donaldson, it's in West Jefferson, Bessemer, Jefferson County, Alabama. And Holman is in Atmore. I'm gonna forget the county that Atmore is in, but it's way down there, going towards the beaches in Alabama and Florida. Actually, it's on the western end of Alabama. But anyway, long story short, these two individuals organized an entire documentary via cell phones, contraband, in prisons. And listen, I don't know what became of these two individuals. I do know this, that I know we know cell phones exist. Hell, I confiscated millions. Dope and drugs exist. Like I said earlier, Department of Corrections is one of the most corrupt organizations there is. But to do this documentary, it wasn't 1 or 2 years. It was over 20 years. Because when I first got into transferred to the Department of Corrections, was in the early 2000s. This lasted, I know, all the way up until 2016, when I was on my way out of the Department of Corrections, when I wanted to transfer to another agency. And I'm like, even after the fact, even after this documentary has come out, heads got to roll. The lawyers who was talking to him, the individuals themselves. HBO has a documentary, damn near 20 plus years documentary of inmates on their cell phones communicating, setting up deals and organizing strikes, organizing hits. Y'all, now in the public's eye, I don't know how y'all view that, but let's just say that you was a victim of something. That inmate went to prison. With cell phones and tablets and all that good stuff, these inmates can organize hits after you. So I just did, and I'm going back to 2014, 15, and 16. The years I'm just like, I got to get up out of here. I got to get away from this foolishness. What was the public outrage? I saw more people boycotting at camps, and St. Clair was one of them. Then I saw the public outrage that these inmates communicating and organizing these walkouts and boycotts. Incredible, man. Incredible. And then, shortly after that, or actually during that time, you had the defund the police movement, the Black Lives Matter garbage. It was just incredible, man. And that's why, listen, let me stay on track and keep on with this. So, yeah, I'm going to try to get this guy's information and put it in the description so people can donate and support him. I don't want to get off on a rant, y'all, but I got millions and millions of stories I can tell just with my time in Department of Corrections. I used to tell people before I actually graduated the academy, I had petitioned to ride around with Fairfield, to ride around with Brighton, Anniston, and 2 or 3 more agencies. And I saw a lot, but I think Fairfield's probably one of the cities that was most exciting for the simple fact with Fairfield when they I just had something to throw me off my point. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, I forgot what the hell I was talking about. Let me just say this. I love my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, even though I see these little babies graduating the police academy now, little 22, 23-year-old kids, and God bless them. May he be with them, throughout their duties. But, just remember, these are human beings. They're going to be corrupted too. You're going to have some that's gung-ho, want to be Barney Fife. But they deserve our support until they deem themselves not worthy of that support. Then they'll be out of the agency, out of the whatever department they may be with, and and face whatever criminal charges they need to face. So let me get into my last point, and I'm gonna end this. I got thrown off by something. I apologize for that, y'all. So I'm listening to the Glenn Beck network. I don't know if you guys know anything about Glenn Beck. He's the number one conspiracy theorist thinker out there. He has been right about a lot of things, but Jesus, everything is a conspiracy. So this morning I heard him talk with an interview he did with Cash Patel back in 2023 about if Donald Trump win the presidency again, will he reveal to the world that there's aliens out there. We done talked about that. I had an entire podcast on that. Don't want to revisit it. But I will say with that conversation and another conversation with a high-ranking official that's deal with NASA and the Air Force and that type of thing, they basically said the same thing, that you ain't got to worry about little green men. You got to worry about what China and Russia is putting up in space, and basically satellites and drones and these type of things are up there right now and can be unleashed on us at any time. Satellites and drones. Wow. I said drones, but more of the satellite thing. And one of the big things they said, that's why America's trying their damnness to occupy the moon first. That way, if you go to moon, if you go to the moon, if you go to Mars, this country can't say, well, hell, we got dibs on it. This country can't say, hey, no, we got dibs on it. whoever occupies it first has dibs on it, in other words. And the things that are in certain parts of the sky, the atmosphere, space, the Russians and the Chinese have occupied not planets or moons, but space itself with satellites that could be dropped down and, destroy parts of the country. Now, as I'm listening to this, in my mind, I'm like, listen, when they kill a satellite and they let it re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, it burns up before it hits the ground. So I'm thinking, if they try to drop down a satellite with a bomb on it to hit somewhere in the United States, it's going to burn up and blow up before it gets before it hits the ground when it re-enters the atmosphere. But these are not dummies. If they can build spaceships and what was the fleet back in the 80s? Shuttles, and I think now the new one is called Artemis or something like that. If they can design these things to leave the atmosphere and to re-enter without burning up or blowing up, why not do that with a satellite? Why not do that with a satellite with a bomb on it? So I was critical when I first start hearing these conversations on the radio. Then I was like, it's a possibility. But all that's being said, I want to sit here and say it's all garbage. They just want to scare us. But I'm going to tell you where I first learned of COVID. I probably said this in previous podcasts. I first learned of COVID via Glenn Beck. It was in December of 2019. It was I think it was November 2019. And I'm like, oh, whatever, dude. This is garbage. Said a little bit more the next month, December. Come January, if I'm not mistaken, hell, they had ships that were docked. Nobody could leave. They were quarantined to these ships because of COVID. And from that point on, the rest is history. The whole world shut down. So I can't dismiss the crap that I hear when it comes to the Blaze Network and Glenn Beck, but Jesus Christ. To me, it's a bunch of doom and gloom. And y'all know I don't like doom and gloom. But listen, it is what it is. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm going to, if I can remember, put that description, that link in the description when I edit this. That's going to be 2 or 3 days from now, so my mind is bad. So hopefully I can remember that. But anyway, you guys stay blessed. I love you. I appreciate you. And as always, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, you guys stay blessed. And I'll see you next time.